and friends. Your support continues to keep high school athletics on internet radio and webcast. It is our goal to highlight student athletes throughout our great state. We are scheduled to broadcast over 300 games this season, and you can find us broadcasting at high school football stadiums, basketball and volleyball courts, baseball and softball diamonds, next to the wrestling mats, at lacrosse fields, and the soccer pitch. If you would like to know more about how to get your favorite school on radio or webcast, contact us by email at coach@indianasrn.org. Coach has enjoyed his time with you during the Sports Zone show. Thank you again. And if you're enjoying this show or would like to sponsor any of our broadcasts, you can contact us via email at coach@indianasrn.org. Thank you again for listening and watching Indiana SRN, where you're always in the game. And don't forget to join us Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern for the Sports Zone.
Indiana SRN, where you're always in the game.
It's the Sports Zone with Keith Myers and the Indiana SRN sports team. Made possible by Morales Group, College Hunks and Movers, the IHSAA, and Aspen Creek Grill. Now, let's join Keith and his guests.
Well, thank you very much for joining us this morning on Indiana SRN and the Sports Zone on the hotline. Good friend of ours from Speedway, Indiana, head basketball coach Chuck Bennett. And the last time we talked was, I think, the first round of the sectional playoffs.
I believe that was correct. Yeah, it seems like a lifetime ago or years ago. But, yeah, just back in March during that week, we were headed in. Unfortunately, lost to Ritter in the first round. But, that was the time when everything was flying along, and everything was, I guess, quote unquote, normal at that point.
You talk about that sectional. They've realigned Speedway and Heritage Christian, Cecina, Covenant Christian, Park Tudor went to Cecina's sectional. It was very interesting because that's for first time in I think 4 or 5 years we didn't see it during sectional play, and I kind of missed the Sloppy Joe sandwiches and the shop talk.
I loved every year getting a chance to take in Debbie's Sloppy Joes, and then I think the one year that you were kind enough to allow me to do the radio play at the state championship, we had a little coaches show out at your house, and that was great. But, yeah, I miss not seeing good friends at the sectional, and kind of miss not being able to host it, too, because we had gone on a little stretch there where, our athletic director, Brian Avery, does such a great job that we got to host. So it was always nice running into you guys every year, your whole crew. But even when I'm out scouting from time to time, I always get to see guys, that work with you, and that's always nice as well. But, yeah, it was strange not being in a sectional with those same teams that we kind of battled off and on with for, 10 or 12 years. So definitely a new challenge, but Indian Creek was a great place to go. They always have good atmosphere, and still see a few of our conference schools down there as well.
Talk a little bit about the expansion of Indiana SRN now, Coach. We have 4 webcast TV stations and then the 12 or 13 internet radio stations. You've experienced some of that from us, and you were, as you mentioned, you were part of that little small group, and now it's blown up, and I think even next fall or this fall it will even blow up even more.
Well, I think I remember it had to be probably maybe 10 years ago. We were out at Horizon Christian, and I think I ran into you out there then at a cross-country match, and you were in the process of starting this operation. You had this goal and this dream and this vision, and you wanted to do something where you could, emphasize high school sports and make sure that the kids could get recognition and take a passion that you had and loved. And I just remember you starting off and, with a few events, and then, like I said, you asked me to do the state finals that one year, but now every time I go to a football game, it seems like, or I go to a basketball game, you guys are there. I think you've got really good relationship built in with the IHSAA as well, and so it's just kind of taken off from that dream you had many years ago, and all the hard work you put in and your crew, the guys you work with, have just been outstanding as well.
Talk about the playoff back in the day. Joe Smith was one of your assistant coach. I think we ran into each other in Connersville the year you guys played very, very well. You had a great run. Talk about those teams and the ability just to reload each year for Speedway High School, as you've been there for quite many years now.
Yeah, we're really fortunate. In fact, we've had great kids come through, and I've had a great staff. But those years that we made a nice little run, 3 straight years in a row we won the sectional, 3 straight years we made it to the Final 8. The year in Connersville you talked about, it was always kind of not odd going out to Connersville, but we'd go out there and usually play. That year we played Cecina in the morning and beat Broad Ripple at the night, who had beaten Park Tudor that year by 1 point. We beat Broad Ripple. It was always nice to see some friendly faces out there, but Connersville was a great atmosphere. Spartan Bowl was a great place to play. Even though it was kind of a drive for us, we always had a great crowd. And then, the following week we got to go to Richmond and play in the whale of a semi-state game as well. But, we had Jordan Furlow, who's a very good point guard, Anthony Jones, who was a good guard, and then Justin Brent, who went on to Notre Dame and then to Nevada. But I think probably what I'll remember is even though we had those guys that were probably a core nucleus that were very talented, we also had some great kids each year that were seniors that went around them. And our senior classes were really good. And, they always say you're only as good as your seniors. But then I also looked to our staff that we had, and you mentioned Joe Smith, who, then left and went to Covenant, was now back here at Speedway and done a great job. And then actually all my staff that was with me at that time are still with me today. And I think having a solid staff, my JV coach, Shane Clampett, my varsity assistant, Dan Massariu, another varsity assistant, Jim Murley, having those guys around and the continuity they can provide just makes kids feel like that they can, if they work hard, that we can get results.
It's hard to believe, Coach, but that's been 8 years ago when we did that. And I remember Bill and I did some games. We did that whole entire regional. I remember staying at Connersville High School. We ate there. It was a camp out for the whole entire day. Joe Smith and I, that's where Joe Smith and I developed our friendship. He still owes me a 3 Musketeer bar because he took mine, but it's been about 8 years. It's crazy.
Well, I'll keep some 3 Musketeers bars in my desk or in my briefcase, so next time I see you, I can give you one. But yeah, it's hard to believe that it's been that long ago. I guess time flies when you're having fun, but we're certainly still striving to get back to that level, and our kids are doing a great job of working hard. So hopefully we'll get back to that at some point. But even when you start looking at it, getting to play in different venues, like I said, even Indian Creek was great, but had we won the section, we would have went to Greencastle, which has a great venue as well. And so, it could have been one side of the state to the other.
You talk about when you first started at Speedway, I think your first year was 2003. Is that right?
That is correct. 2003, 2004. Yep.
Talk about that team, because they had a different coach the previous year. You came in with a new system. How did your players adapt that? And that system now has kept going since that start of your career.
Well, at that point when I came in to take over the head coaching job, I was pretty fortunate because I was actually the JV coach at Speedway starting in 1999. I came from Beech Grove Middle School, and so I happened to be around as JV coach, and I was fortunate that Coach Trent Lehman at the time, who was the head coach and head coach when we won the state in 2002, hired me as a JV coach. So I got to work with many of the kids, and then that first class, those seniors were something special as well. Even though we didn't win the sectional that year, we actually got beat by Heritage Christian down at Triton Central. I think they had a kid named Abernathy who was pretty good, and they ended up beating us. But it was kind of a nice, almost, I wouldn't say seamless transition, but since I coached JV, I'd been around the kids quite a bit. They knew kind of what we expected and definitely made some tweaks. But again, I had a great senior class that year. And then I was fortunate 2 years later to coach a player named Chiron Eli, who went on to the University of Evansville, played a little bit in the CBA, but he was another great influence on me and our team and our program. And again, another good senior class that came along in 2006, in which we battled Heritage Christian again in the sectional final at home and lost. But just being able to be the JV coach and be around and kind of build that rapport with the kids as someone different than a head coach, because sometimes, head coaches are seen in a different light. But fortunately, I had built those relationships. And then now, as I said before, one of the things I'm going to miss this summer is we had to cancel our summer camp due to the coronavirus. But every year I get to help run a summer camp with our assistants and get to stay in touch with the kids. And I'll tell you another thing I think our program does really well is our third and fourth grade basketball league. Our high school kids actually coach our third and fourth graders. And so we run practice once a week, and we play 8 games during the season, so they get to coach the kids. And so there's kind of a family-type atmosphere, if you will, where we're building in with the older kids, younger kids, and so get a chance to see every kid that goes through our program.
Talk about the conference. The Indiana Crossroads Conference is a very tough conference, especially this year. You look at the teams that were in that conference, Cascade, Lutheran, Cardinal, Ritter, Cecina, Morovia, and Triton Central. Those are really tough in and tough out every day playing those guys. Beech Grove, I forgot to mention Beech Grove. That's a tough sectional and a tough conference.
Yeah, that conference, we've been in that conference now. I think this is going to be, next year will be our 10th year. We finished second a couple times, but we've never won it. And I think that kind of attests to how tough a conference it is. But night in, night out, whoever you play, I'd put our conference I would consider it a small school conference up against any in the state. And as you said, you started rattling down those teams, across all sports. I mean, the boys and girls, there's not a night where if you have to play at home, it's going to be a battle. If you have to go on the road, it's going to be a battle. And I think one time I sat back and looked with our conference, too, about how many times our conference, how many sectional championships we have every year. And then you look how many regional championships and so on and so forth. And like I said, it's across the board in sports. I mean, you take a look at soccer, you take a look at boys and girls basketball, football, baseball, softball. Just the success and the competition. But I'll tell you what I think that does for everybody is it definitely is motivation for your players, and the fact that they know that going into a season they're going to have 7 games that are going to mean the world to them, 7 games that if they win and can compete, they got a chance to win a championship. So, you kind of get that season within a season, but in the off season, they can prepare knowing that kids from Cecina or even Ritter, who's, just about a mile and a half away from us, what those kids are doing to prepare. And we built up some really nice rivalries with those schools and keeps things interesting.
Coach, we're going to take a 2-minute break. When we come back, we got a lot more for you.
Okay, thank you.
It's Indiana Sports, and it's Indiana SRN and Sports Talk. More after this.
It's coming. It's coming. IPSathletics.tv. High school sports on the World Wide Web. Every big game on IPSathletics.tv. Football, volleyball, basketball, and much more. Coming this fall, IPSathletics.tv. Let the games begin.
Chimney Solutions, Indiana, 317-757-6979. The team here at Chimney Solutions travels throughout the Indianapolis area, making chimney and fireplace maintenance as easy, affordable, and stress-free as possible. Whether your chimney system is in need of a simple sweeping or some major repair work, you can count on the Chimney Safety Institute of America certified team at Chimney Solutions to take great care of you. Call us today at 317-757-6979. Chimney Solutions, Indiana.
Hey, everybody, it's Coach from Indiana SRN. Don't forget to listen to Sports Zone every day right here, 11 to 12 noon Eastern. Indiana SRN, where you're always in the game.
Becoming a licensed sports official is a great way to make a positive difference in the community and support the over 160,000 Indiana student athletes that participate across 21 IHSAA sports. Sports officiating allows you to stay connected to the game, become a role model for our young student athletes, earn extra money, and support the patrons and communities of our IHSAA member schools. To learn more about becoming a licensed IHSAA official, log on to ihsaa.org/officials today.
Indiana SRN, where you're always in the game.
Back on the Sports Zone, Indiana SRN. Keith Myers with you. Chuck Bennett, the head coach at Speedway High School, boys basketball coach. And Coach, you have 157 wins as a varsity coach. Fortunately, you have 157 wins. I have about 50 as a varsity coach. Tell me how you can get that other 100. I'm done, but boy, that's a long season, and it takes a long time to get to 100. But you've done very well.
Well, I think you attribute it to, again, probably you just have great players. And, I think I read a story the other day that someone was talking about climbing the mountain. And when you get to the top of the mountain, you get up there, but really the whole joy was in the journey up the side of the mountain and what goes on up the side of the mountain, that journey. And so while the victories are nice, and certainly anyone would tell you it's probably much more fun when you win than it is when you lose. And those wins are great. It's more along the journeys that's important than the relationships you build too. I was talking with my wife the other day because we were out on a walk, and we're just kind of going back through all of the players that I've had play for me who are now doctors or who are now out into the workforce that are making a difference in the world. And I just hope a little bit of the things that we did as a program, like I mentioned, the 3rd and 4th grade teams earlier, or I know we still dress up when we go on the road. We're still ties, shirts and ties on the road, so that I think that's important to dress for success. So, and we put a big emphasis on being a good person, then a good student, and then a good player. And so I hope that those things, I guess, turn into lifelong lessons that the players can use. But in terms of wins, it's just continue to trust the process, which I know sounds difficult sometimes, but again, it's a journey. And just kind of getting kids to continue to buy into being something greater than themselves. I think we talk about it all the time here at Speedway. We actually have a wall of fame for our sectional championship teams. And so that picture can go up there on the wall. And as a person on the team, you could go down in history forever by winning a sectional championship. And so I think the kids look back as well. Those are the things they'll remember. They'll remember the bus rides and the celebrations in the locker room after those wins, singing the school fight song on the court, getting to do those special activities that you get to do with each of your teammates.
A couple more questions before I let you go. I know you're very busy because you're planning going back to school and doing some e-learning, and school is almost out, and I'm sure you're excited about that. But let's talk. We would be remiss if we didn't talk about some of your rivalries, and we've had a couple of your rivalry games. I think Indianapolis-Scecina would be a rival. I know Covenant Christian is definitely a rival. I know when we get to do that game, everybody gets excited and places are packed. But I think a new rival this year for you, it might be Cascade. They played with you before, but is that little rival renewed now that Cascade's right down the road from you?
Well, that, and they're back in the conference now, so that game, not that it didn't have special emphasis before, but Coach Du Bois out there has been at the helm almost the same amount of time that I have, and for a while we went out to the South Putnam sectional as well. So when we went out there, we would see Cascade from time to time in the sectional. But yeah, I think our kids, anytime there's a conference game, they get worked up for. But Cascade, across the board, in baseball, across the board, in football as well. We've had some really tough games. I think it was 2 years ago there was a heck of a championship baseball game between Cascade and Speedway. And so just kind of seeing, those rivalries build across the sports in general, because we're both kind of so small that, you have multiple sport athletes to play. So you get a chance with that. But you mentioned Covenant Christian. I was excited for Coach Flatt this year to get that sectional championship. I know that he had a great group of kids, and sorry that season had to end for him, but due to the coronavirus. But, going over there, I mean, when you're, we should probably do like they do out at Connorsville and Union County and have our kids dribble basketballs over there. If it wasn't in the middle of January, but it's always a great crowd, and the kids know each other, so that always makes it fun. But getting to coach against guys like Coach Flatt and Coach Du Bois though also makes it fun, and I think the kids know the preparation we put into it as well. I think they want to win as many games as they can, but then also for those bragging rights as well.
Finally, Indiana SRN now landed a deal with IPS. We will be doing IPSathletics.tv with football, volleyball, and basketball next season, or well, starting this fall. Tell us, in your opinion, that helps the City of Lyons. I know you're not in that; you're in the county, but that helps the IPS kids get a little bit more notoriety as well. I know you play a couple IPS schools. Your thoughts on that and the expansion of Indiana SRN going out to the IPS school system?
Well, again, I go back to, your goal of making sure the kids get recognized. But, in our sectional, we have Washington and Shortridge. We play Shortridge during the regular season. So, there's always a couple good schools, and we've had some very good battles with Shortridge, with Washington, the last couple of years in our sectional, as they even moved up with us in 3A. So anything that they can do to, get more publicity for the kids, I think is a win-win situation. And I think hopefully we'll be playing them at some point. Maybe we'll get a run into you when things get back to going next winter.
Debbie said you're always invited to come over to the garage and get your sloppy joes. You're welcome to do that. Coach, I appreciate spending some time with us. It's good to reflect. And, over the years that I've done this, Coach, it is really kind of cool to have great friends, and not only as basketball coaches or any coach, but really great friends to check up on us. And we really appreciate you and your family. You've done that from the get-go when we first started this thing, and I appreciate all the things you've done for us.
And I would say I'd echo those same comments. So I just appreciate all the opportunities you've given me. And anytime we see each other, get a chance to talk and smile about how things were and how things are. And then that just gives us, I think, a bunch of hope for the future, which in this time is it's always good to have a bunch of hope for the future.
And the crazy thing, those ball boys are no longer ball boys. Those are young men playing basketball for you, which makes me even feel older than I feel.
Yeah, well, it has been great to see them grow up, and I do have twins that will be sophomores next year, and we're hoping that they have a good off season so that they can come in and contribute. And I have a son who will be in 8th grade, so it's been great that they've had the opportunities to do the ball boy thing down at the IHSAA, and then grow up around good people, my coaches and good players, and then good people like you as well. So when I go someplace and they ask who's that, I can explain to them and say, yeah, you remember that's the guy that gave me the opportunity to do the state championship. So it was great opportunity. So I appreciate it a bunch.
Coach, say hello to the wife. Thanks very much, and we'll talk to you again.
Okay, thank you.
We'll take a break. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to Indiana SRN.
It's been said the night is always darkest just before the dawn. Maybe you can relate right now. But make no mistake about it, a new day is dawning. Opportunity and promise are on the horizon for all of us. And just like in high school sports, we'll trust honesty, empathy, hard work, and humility to bring out the best in us and show us the way. The IHSAA will look for you at a high school game or meet very soon.
It's coming. It's coming. IPSathletics.tv. High school sports on the World Wide Web. Every big game on IPSathletics.tv. Football, volleyball, basketball, and much more. Coming this fall, IPSathletics.tv. Let the games begin.
Indiana SRN, where you're always in the game.
I've probably said this about 50 times since I've done this show, but this guy, I taught this guy how to referee basketball, and I also taught him how to referee football, and he's done a great job. He's been a state champion, but I never, you never give me any thanks at all. Jason Ferguson joins us. Jason was a young official, slept many times on my back porch and swam in my swimming pool, probably at 4 a.m. in the morning a couple of times, and the wife yelled at him and said, "Oh, my bad. I didn't realize you guys were asleep." Do you remember those days, Jason?
That's all true. And then, like you said before, we got up at 8 o'clock and went and refereed basketball games.
Wow. I don't think I can do that anymore. I think I have to be in bed by 9:30, and I think I have to be up by 6.
Yeah, you got me beat. I'm usually in bed by 9.
Oh, well, okay, there you go. Jason, early in his career, did very, very well. And then, there was a miracle that happened for you because you were diagnosed of cancer, and many people were concerned, and justly so. But the Lord got you out of that, and man, it made us a lot better. And iron does sharpen iron, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. In 2014, I was diagnosed with multiple myeloma. Been having some issues, aches, pains, that sort of thing. Went and got the blood work, and my doctor told me, hey, you've got stage 4 cancer, and we got to get you to an oncologist. And from there, I went to the specialist, Dr. Abenauer at IU Med Center, and did the treatments right away, got right into it. And like you said, good Lord willing, it was in remission within about 6 months after radiation, chemo, and stem cell transplant, and a lot of prayers.
You talk about those days, and, we reflected for that because at that same time, my wife was going through a hardship herself, right. And yeah. You and I were talking back and forth and giving each other encouragement. And I still remember today I walked out of my house knowing that everything was going to be fine for both of you. And I really appreciate the friendship that we've had and continue to have. And thank you so much for what you did for my family back in those days, and vice versa. You're a great guy.
Well, I know she would be the first to say, too, that the Lord is really the one who deserves all the credit. But if it weren't for friends around us that prayed for us and brought us meals, and, like my wife, especially just like you did for your wife, was my caregiver at home. I did my treatments through the IU Med Center and Simon Cancer Center as an outpatient. So I leaned on my wife as my chauffeur, my nurse, my personal assistant, and just like I'm sure Deb could say, that those treatments take a lot out of you. So you got to have other people around you, and without it, the graces of the good Lord, we'd be somewhere else right now. But here we are talking about it. So looking back on it, I'm so glad I had those people around me as well.
Let's talk a little bit about your career, because maybe people may think I'm kidding, but there was 2 summers back to back where the Myers household was, you get your dinner there, you go back to Belzer, or you go back to Lawrence Central, Lawrence North, or Fall Creek. You get to go in the swimming pool. You may be able to cramp up. And Nathan now has been married for 12 years. That's to tell you how old we are then.
Yeah, and my son Cole's, he'll be 21.
Yeah, and you look at the kids back then. They didn't know what's going on. They thought that was normal. Just have referee guys hang out at your house.
Yeah, not to mention they also forgot that I still had a 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, and then I was even working a third job at night out at FedEx for a lot of that time through there. So it was good to be young, that's for sure. Like we mentioned before, I certainly wouldn't be able to do it now physically or even mentally, but young and dumb is sometimes a good thing.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about your career when you got to the point where you knew you were getting really good and you got to work the state finals a few years back. You were ranked the #1 official in the state of Indiana. All that hard work and all that grind really paid off on that day, and a lot of people surrounded you. I got to broadcast that game, which was a thrill for me to see you out on the floor like that. Talk a little bit about the grind, and that doesn't happen very often anymore.
No, and a lot of people don't realize that, and you have to work 3 sectionals to get a regional, 3 regionals to work a semi-state, 3 semi-states to get a state. So even if you're moving on and progressing as soon as you can, it'd take you 7 or 8 years to get to the state finals. I think I did it in 11. There's a lot of people that, went before me that had a lot more experience that, let's face it, were even better than me. A ranking's a ranking, #1. All that means is the next year you're going to go down from there. But it's a nice accolade that it means your peers and your coaches that you're working for, are giving you good credit. But if it weren't for doing those games and getting that experience and just being around good officials, I mean, my partners, Tim Cartwright, Dan Morgan, people like that, Stu Casper, Mike East, and Kevin Lewis that I was working with were just as good as me and excelled on the court as well. That, let's face it, sometimes if you're working with subpar partners, you're gonna be a subpar official at the end of the day. You're kind of guilty by association a lot of times in this thing. So football as well, and I was fortunate enough I also did volleyball, so I was fortunate enough to be in front of ADs on multiple occasions, and that really helped my profile, if you will, as an official and being seen out there.
Talk about
and good people like you giving me good credit on the sidelines too, who are broadcasting the games.
Yeah, I'll give you your dollar later. Let's talk a little bit about the officiating the way it is now. We're in a little dry spell where we need more officials to get things going. I know Sandra Walter and you guys as an official association is gathering and putting data together. But is there hope? Is there going to be officials ready to go in 15, 20 years when all you guys are gone away?
I think so. I mean, I know there were a lot of older gentlemen and ladies when I started that, were at the end of the line that maybe hung on. At that time we went from 2-person to 3-person pretty much across the board. That kind of left some room for advancement. And at this time frame, I think you'll see freshman JV games even go to 3-person so people can get experience. But at the end of the day, there's X number of games and you need 3 officials per, and that comes up to a lot of people. And I've seen numbers that basketball will be okay. It may be some of the other sports, but in Indiana, basketball is still pretty popular. And, we're doing a push. The foundation and the IHSA both have done a great job at the state tournaments and across the board. And, we have technology now, radio, TV ads that we necessarily did. You would have never seen become an Indiana official back in those days. And now you're seeing those avenues. They're going to schools. I mean, obviously right now with schools being closed, but when they get back in the fall, making a push to young people that are no longer playing competitive sports to get your license as an official and be a part of the game. And that's, just like you and I, that's the enjoyment we got out of being part of the game when we could no longer play it at a certain level anymore. If you didn't want to go into coaching, go into officiating. And I think there'll be people out there. I mean, the overall numbers are certainly probably down across the board. I mean, at some point, everyone retires, right? Nobody lasts forever in this business, so or in any business for that matter. So we have to look to the young people just like they look to us.
June 1, we start a new show called Behind the Stripes. It's on local for administration, game day officials, and game day operation. We start that on June 1st. We're looking forward to starting that. There's got to be an emphasis of getting the officials back to where they feel like they're in charge. But I think it starts with hospitality and also a fair wage. Do you feel that the association is doing a good job on both of those in the schools?
Yeah, I think the hospitality side of it is as good as it's ever been. I mean, there were days in the good old days where you were lucky to, even see some ADs, and now there's certainly an emphasis at taking care of the folks, water, food, towels, showers, locker room space. It's certainly a thing that's high on the priority list. The pay, I don't know that the pay will ever be good enough for the amount of time and energy put into it. I like to think that most of us, myself included, that the love of the game is kind of the equaling factor when it comes to the pay. I mean, if you upped it $5 or $10, would you get any more enjoyment out of it? Probably not. That at the end of the day, they also have a budget that they've got to keep. And let's face it, the licensing and the shirts and the costs of it is probably what needs to be controlled a little bit better. That would offset the lack in pay. But I'm hopeful that most ADs and incoming ADs that learn and get a little experience from the outgoing folks that have been there a while will certainly make that an emphasis. And people like you that keep pushing it out there, that are no longer officiating, that, there's a lot of people that get a lot of ill fate towards officials, but there's also a lot of love out there for people who've done it, like yourself, that are giving us a little better benefit of the doubt. So that kind of offsets the lack of money sometimes, I think.
Jason, we're going to take a 2-minute timeout. When we come back, we got a lot more for you, okay?
Got it.
And we'll be back right after this. You're listening to Sports Zone on Indiana SRN.
Sports Official is a great way to make a positive difference in the community and support the over 160,000 Indiana student athletes that participate across 21 IHSAA sports. Sports officiating allows you to stay connected to the game, become a role model for our young student athletes, earn extra money, and support the patrons and communities of our IHSAA member schools. To learn more about becoming a licensed IHSAA official, log on to ihsaa.org/officials today.
Chimney Solutions, Indiana, 317-757-6979. The team here at Chimney Solutions travels throughout the Indianapolis area, making chimney and fireplace maintenance as easy, affordable, and stress-free as possible. Whether your chimney system is in need of a simple sweeping or some major repair work, you can count on the Chimney Safety Institute of America certified team at Chimney Solutions to take great care of you. Call us today at 317-757-6979. Chimney Solutions, Indiana.
It's coming. It's coming. IPSathletics.tv. High school sports on the World Wide Web. Every big game on IPSathletics.tv. Football, volleyball, basketball, and much more. Coming this fall, IPSathletics.tv. Let the games begin.
Jason Ferguson joins us this morning on Indiana SRN and in Sports Zone. Indiana SRN will have IPSathletics.tv this year with football, basketball, and volleyball. And Jason, we just got that agreement settled a couple of weeks ago, and we're pretty excited about having IPS on the network.
Absolutely. That's a great league, great sports. Great athletes, and you guys will do it justice, I know.
Talk about your favorite game you ever officiated. You can't use Keith Myers because I know I was the best partner you ever had.
Right.
But talk about your favorite game at all times, and then talk about the guys that you worked with. And you probably got a couple of guys in mind that helped you grow the way you have grown.
Yeah, my favorite game, so far, let's hope a little bit of career left to maybe build another memory, but 4A state finals in 2016 when Romeo was with New Albany and the Tennessee boys were with McCutcheon, was down to the wire, 1 or 2 possession game, and worked with Andy Simpson, Jeff Nix. It was just a great ball game, great atmosphere, sold out, Bankers Life Fieldhouse. So that's right up there. The 4A girls state finals was another great one. Pike and Fort Wayne Homestead the following year I worked it. Was lucky enough to work it. My favorite partners, Tim Cartwright's obviously been my longtime wingman, but I just recently lost one of my first partners, and obviously you know him well, Mike Bohan. Just a great mentor, just a great guy, man of God. Spoke a lot of wisdom into me other than just on the court. I was fortunate enough to work a sectional with him early on when I was really young. Another one was Kent Smith. He really mentored me. A lot of tough love from those guys, things you're doing right, things you're doing wrong on the court. I really miss those guys. They've passed on, but certainly left a mark in the game.
I have a story about Kent Smith. I worked the Gus Macker tournament, and I was their tournament guy where you went to each court. I was like a scorekeeper type of thing, and it was Kent Smith, Bob Klein, and myself. Who do you think was the lowest man on the totem pole, and who do you think got dinner and lunch and breakfast both days?
Yeah. That was Mr. Keith Myers.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And then Mike Bohan, I remember sharing communion with Mike Bohan in the locker room as a broadcaster. We went and we were praying, and I just felt like that's what we needed to do, and Mike allowed us to do that. And as you see us do that occasionally, go in and pray with the officials. I think it's a very important part of who we are as Indiana SRN, but I think that sets the tone for everybody.
Yeah, I think there's still a lot of good guys that understand the impact of Jesus and God on our lives, and I've worked with them. There's a few that kind of give you a wry look if you go to pray before the games, but I always do. Our football crew prays on the field together before we break the huddle and go to kickoff. And, I think if you don't give the Lord credit, you find yourself on the bad end of things. So,
okay,
we'll continue to do it.
last thing, you did a sectional at Heritage Christian. It was very cold, freezing, and rainy. You
Yes.
never gave me a rain jacket. I worked the sidelines. What was that all about?
That was a hurricane that came in, and it didn't leave for about 5 days, if you remember. And it was getting that time of year where it was cold anyway, like you mentioned, sectional time, where we all see the leaves turn and the wind getting a little colder anyway. And thank goodness for turf fields.
Yes.
Whoever came up with getting turf fields and getting rid of – can you imagine how miserable that would have been on sod?
Yep. I think that was Michelle York that put that turf in. Thank goodness for Michelle. Hey, Jason, thank you so much for spending some time with us. I know you're very busy this morning. Have a great day, all right?
Thanks for having me, Keith. God bless you guys and your listeners.
All right. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to Indiana SRN, where you're always in the game.
It's been said the night is always darkest just before the dawn. Maybe you can relate right now. But make no mistake about it, a new day is dawning. Opportunity and promise are on the horizon for all of us. And just like in high school sports, we'll trust honesty, empathy, hard work, and humility to bring out the best in us and show us the way. The IHSAA will look for you at a high school game or meet very soon.
Hey, everybody, it's Coach from Indiana SRN. Don't forget to listen to Sports Zone every day right here, 11 to 12 noon Eastern. Indiana SRN, where you're always in the game.
Indiana SRN, where you're always in the game.
It is the Sports Zone on Indiana SRN this morning. Well, the guy who helped me design this show along with the other guys, it's Steve McClure. And Steve, 3 months ago, we had a little brain trust. Well, before then, I think we talked about this mid-February that we may have to do something. But when the sectionals were canceled, you and Sean and Jerry and us just got together, brainstormed, and thought we'd bring back the Sports Zone. And, as we're in our second to last day of the show, I thought you would be the fitting guest to wrap things up on this Thursday.
But you know what? This second go-around with the Sports Zone has been fabulous and so creative because we've had a chance to visit with so many different personalities in our greater Indianapolis area, from coaches to student athletes to officials, and it has really given us a chance to hear from a lot of people that we normally don't get a chance to talk to in length other than to say, hello, glad to see you again. So a great job.
Well, thank you very much. We've been averaging about 1,700 listeners from the beginning to the end, and you'll hear from us again, but we can't tell you that until Friday. This is Thursday, so there's a little tease for you. But it's been a lot of fun, and you're right. All the guests that we've had, a couple of repeat guests, but we want to thank the Indiana High School Athletic Association for helping us with them. I think I talked to every single commissioner. I talked to Matt Wolford at least 3 times. Matt's a good buddy. He owes me some wings right now, but it's been a lot of fun, and to put that all together to really develop something over the last 3 months.
Well, the thing that I've really enjoyed about it, Keith, and you know that I've been on board with you from the get-go, especially each and every day, to be able to kind of retweet some of the highlights of the show from the beginning until this particular time. But the one thing that I found primarily of biggest interest to me is your conversations with officials, because we don't get to hear their voice a great deal in terms of what they have to prepare for in their outings. And especially you, coming from a coach's standpoint and also an official standpoint, there's just so many things that a lot of people in the general public just never know about. And so I've enjoyed the sportsmanship aspect of trying to be a better listener as it pertains to the crowd is concerned, and learn a little bit more about their profession.
I think this show did one thing. If anything, it united us. We all needed something. We were all hurting. We talked with Coach Ron Hecklinski yesterday. Still has the virus, and you hurt for him. But he's so awesome, so excited about the future because he knows he's going to beat this. But everybody, there was that really hurt moment, and then there's joy, and now there's that somber. We're ready for July, aren't we?
Yes, we are. And, it's also, I think, promoted the fact that we need to care about one another even more so. I try to do that each and every day in terms of talking to people that I don't get a chance to talk to, but, reaching out to all of our student athletes, especially with high school graduations going on, and the coaches of those student athletes that we're also close to anyway, Keith. But really, I've been closer to them now than ever.
Yeah, me too. And it's it was kind of neat to talk to Izzy Reed and Emery Brew, those type of kids who have made an impact, and many others. I mean, you look at our list, and I think there's been 50 more than 50 guests. And we've done, this is show number 49. Tomorrow will be number 50 of the Sports Zone of the new edition, which is crazy if you look at that, Steve.
Well, Coach, I think you'll agree with me, and I think everyone will appreciate this, the fact that our student athlete today and our students, as well as all of our young people today that we come in contact with, they're so bright and articulate, and what they go through each and every day with their academics as well as athletics. And they just handle things so well. I'm not sure we as a people back in the 50s or 60s could have done as good a job. We did a different kind of job back then, but now I'm just so proud of all of them.
Talk a little bit about, Steve, when we were sitting here and we were brainstorming, did you ever think of some of the guests that we have had where people would call and say, hey, I would like to, I got an opinion about this. I mean, you look at Rich Nye, you look at Charlie Gifford, who will be, who's been on this show, Tanner Ball, those people, I mean, those are celebrities in our industry who really sat down and really talked heartfelt things about their career and also what they do behind the scenes.
Yeah, and Keith, those people that you're mentioning here, and I'll mention a few more of them, but they have paid their dues in the past, and they have taught us a great deal about broadcast journalism and sports in general. And, hearing from guys like Rich Nye, along with David Pigman from the Indianapolis Indians, to Mike Jansen, a number of other TV personalities in our greater Indianapolis area. But I think we can all learn from one another. And it used to be, I remember growing up in this business, that you really weren't friends with other broadcasters. And that's totally different today. I think we're all in this together, and it's an overused phrase, but yeah, we're all friends in this media.
One of the things I do know, if I need to write a book, I'll call Ken Sterling, because I think he knows how to write a book, because he's got a bestseller in his hand. And I really want to go to a Purdue game. I just have to call Rob Blackman, and I'm in.
Well, a book has been on my to-do list for many, many, many years, and I've kind of worked out an outline, Keith, for it, and perhaps it will come here in the next year.
That would be kind of cool. We're going to take a 2-minute break. When we come back, Steve, we'll wrap things up. And again, thanks for spending some time with us this morning.
Absolutely.
We'll take a 2-minute break. When we come back, we'll have more of the Sports Zone right after this.
It's been said the night is always darkest just before the dawn. Maybe you can relate right now. But make no mistake about it, a new day is dawning. Opportunity and promise are on the horizon for all of us. And just like in high school sports, we'll trust honesty, empathy, hard work, and humility to bring out the best in us and show us the way. The IHSAA will look for you at a high school game or meet very soon.
It's coming. It's coming. IPSathletics.tv. High school sports on the World Wide Web. Every big game on IPSathletics.tv. Football, volleyball, basketball, and much more. Coming this fall, IPSathletics.tv. Let the games begin.
Chimney Solutions, Indiana, 317-757-6979. The team here at Chimney Solutions travels throughout the Indianapolis area, making chimney and fireplace maintenance as easy, affordable, and stress-free as possible. Whether your chimney system is in need of a simple sweeping or some major repair work, you can count on the Chimney Safety Institute of America certified team at Chimney Solutions to take great care of you. Call us today at 317-757-6979. Chimney Solutions, Indiana.
Indiana SRN, where you're always in the game.
March 23rd was the first show, Steve, and now all of a sudden we're at the end of May, and tomorrow will be the last Sports Zone as we've noted for this edition. I'm sure the Sports Zone will come back next summer as we always do the show in the month of June all the way through August, and it's been a lot of fun. It's been a fun ride to do this show, and again, thank you and all of our SRN guys to help us out.
You know, Keith, I was just kind of reviewing a calendar here in front of me, and I go back to March the 10th when my quarantine began here at home. That was basically the last sporting event that I worked, and that was downtown at Bankers Life Fieldhouse for the Big Ten Men's Championship. We did get in that first night with IU involved in it, and of course the very next morning on the 11th, I was headed back downtown for another assignment, and of course it all got postponed and then eventually canceled, and then we were all looking forward to broadcasting on Saturday the 14th for the IHSA Boys Basketball Regional. I was so prepared for that broadcast down there where we had Greenwood Christian Academy involved, and of course they were going to be one of our top favorites for a state championship, having only lost one game during the regular season, and that was to University by 1 point. And of course the tournament officials with the IHSAA originally postponed things and put things on hold for about 24 hours, and we all know what happened that day later, and of course that was all called off as well. So we were all brokenhearted with that, as much as the students were, as we were pointing towards such a great weekend for everyone here in the state of Indiana. And from that point on, you know, we started looking forward to what spring was going to look like. And I'm really busy during the springtime with golf, tennis, baseball, and softball. And those things, of course, had to be put on hold. And, you know, we just have to take a deep breath and thank God for all the many blessings that we have been given along the line. And we have learned what a new normal is. And it's a kinder, gentler sort of nation that we live in now, Keith, and I'm all happy about that. But again, you just got to be so patient. But I go back to the fact that so many people being involved in this certain pandemic that we've experienced. I love our American country. I'm a veteran, as you well know, from the Air Force, and I bleed red, white, and blue. And I'm just so proud of our country in terms of how our Americans have stood up and just been so gracious in terms of their friendliness, as well as keeping God in the center of their lives.
Could you ever imagine in 2007 when we launched this thing, and now 2020, that we would be in a virus where we are, and then what we're doing when we're doing our sports. I mean, sports is all of our lives. There's 34 of us chomping at the bit for July for football, but what a blessing and what a ride. And, to me, Debbie and I reflected the other day as I was preparing for this week is, you've learned patience and you learn how to get along with people, but that kindness, as you were mentioning, is truly there. And from the bottom of my heart, being the vice president of this company to our CEO, we love everything that we do, and this is not fake. This is who we are, and that's so cool that we can not phone it in. This is who we are.
Well, you had a conversation with one of our colleagues in Sean Kroll not too long ago, and I've heard Sean mention this more than one time, and I'd like to repeat the same thing. So if it's a copycat, that's okay. But he mentioned the fact of the growth of Indiana SRN over the many years and how we've all pitched in to be together under one mission, and that's to keep God centered in our lives. But of all the sporting events that we've been able to experience, Keith, along the line, it's all about the relationships that we have built, not only amongst our own selves as a company, but amongst all the people that we come in contact with. And I think that we have all made a very subtle and gracious impact on one another. And for me, that is the key thing.
So let's leave you with this July 4th or July 5th, whatever that might be. Let's hope that we can get released to do some football. I'm sure, looking forward to high school football, and I'm sure you're looking forward to the Cardinals to be on the air. I'm sure when August 1st comes and we have our SRN meeting, you'll be ready to go, and you'll be ready to eat some Giacomo's pizza and sit down and get your pencils ready to go.
Yeah, one more time, just to give a shout out to Southport High School, my alma mater. And, Keith, we started broadcasting Cardinal football and basketball 7 seasons ago. And it's hard to believe that many days have gone past us. But we have learned a great deal about one another. And for me, to be able to come back to my alma mater almost 50 years later from graduation and do what we do, I am just honored and privileged to be there.
Well, you're a good friend, and I wanted to put you on this Thursday show because Friday's dedicated to something I can't tell you yet, but you'll find out soon. But it's going to be a lot of fun, and Steve, for the friendship that we have, I can still remember going to thank God it's Friday, sitting at a table drinking a lemonade with you, saying, I think I can do that. And sure enough, you did it.
Well, my relationship began with Jerry Collins well before Keith Myers. And so for us to get together at that time and throughout all of these years and all of our experiences together, God bless you.
Well, appreciate that very much. And that wraps it up for us for today. Join us back tomorrow, 11 o'clock to 12 noon Eastern, for the last edition of the Sports Zone. On behalf of Jerry Collins and everybody that's involved with Indiana SRN, we thank you very much, and we hope that you enjoy your evening. God bless you, and we'll see you tomorrow. Goodbye, everybody.
Hello, this is Deb from Indiana SRN, and I'm here to say thank you to our loyal sponsors, schools, coaches, and friends. Your support continues to keep high school athletics on internet radio and webcast. It is our goal to highlight student athletes throughout our great state. We are scheduled to broadcast over 300 games this season, and you can find us broadcasting at high school football stadiums, basketball and volleyball courts, baseball and softball diamonds, next to the wrestling mats, at lacrosse fields, and the soccer pitch. If you would like to know more about how to get your favorite school on radio or webcast, contact us by email at coach@indianasrn.org. Coach has enjoyed his time with you during the Sports Zone show. Thank you again. And if you're enjoying this show or would like to sponsor any of our broadcasts, you can contact us via email at coach@indianasrn.org. Thank you again for listening and watching Indiana SRN, where you're always in the game. And don't forget to join us Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern for the Sports Zone.
Indiana SRN, where you're always in the game.